Hello and welcome back to the She is Courageous Collective. Now, I want to talk about, well, I'm calling it the friendship gap. Okay, you've seen that in the title of this episode. And you might be like, I wonder what this one's all about this week. The friendship gap is that strange space, if you like, that I think many of us experience, particularly as adults, when life changes, we grow, we move, things shift and change, and our friendships shift and change as a result. Now, this is triggered, feels like the wrong word to use, but this has come because I've just come back from 2 weeks in the UK, and it brought this up for me. Now, there were friends I did see, brilliant conversations and time with wonderful people that reminded me just how much I miss the connection, the real connection that we have. It's wonderful that we have technology, okay? I am so fortunate to be able to stay in contact with so many people, but there is something very different about being in person with people. We all know that, but particularly with those friends. You know, the kind of friends where you don't need to explain anything, okay? And you have that time where it's just full of laughs, honesty, you know, the good, the bad, the stuff in between. It's just really easy. So there were loads of those friends that I saw. And then there were many that I didn't see. There were people that I couldn't fit in. There were some who, and gosh, there's no easy way to word this, and so I'm very conscious of what I'm talking about here. But there were some that, you know, weren't able to see me for various reasons. There were some that, if I'm really honest, didn't make the effort that I might have liked them to make. There were people that I thought would make the effort to find time to see me and didn't, for whatever their reasons were. And everything I talk about, let's just have a little moment of reminder here. I'm just smiling to myself, feeling like there's a little bit of people pleaser coming out here. But this is really important because this subject isn't about those people. This subject is actually about me or you and how this plays out. Because there were people that I'd hoped I would see while I was back, and I didn't, for some of my reasons, some of their reasons. There were people that I'd hoped might make the effort or might try to find a way to see me, and they didn't. And it left me feeling a little bit sad, a little bit flat, a little bit disappointed. And I did a lot of reflection around my part in that and my perception of their part in that. But equally, I saw people that perhaps I hadn't planned to see. Actually, I did see people that I hadn't known if I would see, and it was bloody brilliant. And of course, I saw the old timers, the ones that I will always find a way to see. And just be reminded how important their friendship is to me, how easy our friendships are. But there were some that, you know, maybe stung a little bit more than I was ready for. And that's what I mean about the friendship gap. It's this in-between feeling where you have people in your life, but perhaps there's a part where we have to acknowledge? Well, that's not a word, is it? Where we have to acknowledge and realise. I think that's what I was doing with those two words. I'm always making words up. I think we should use acknowledge. There's a part where we have to realise, acknowledge that people that were once our people might not be our people anymore. Or sometimes we have to acknowledge that we've changed, and friends that have been friends for a really long time, we just don't feel connected to them in the same way. Because actually, I've been through a lot of this over the last couple of years, leaving the UK, moving to Dubai, building new friendships. There's been a lot around kind of really noticing how I connect with people, looking around me, and I guess wondering, with all the connections I've made, with all of the people that I've met, who sees me now as I am? Because I am not the same person I was 10 years ago. I mean, I am, but I'm not. I've changed so much. I've moved countries, I've changed careers, I have grown into a new and I think improved version of me. But that does mean that there is a possibility the default friendships, the groups that we've always been part of, don't quite fit the way they did previously. And maybe this resonates for you. Maybe you've been in friendship groups where you've started to notice that the banter doesn't feel quite as easy as it used to, that you find yourself talking less because you don't have as much in common. The chats feel, dare I say it, a bit more shallow. Now I want to put the disclaimer in again. This is not me describing any of my experiences in the last couple of weeks, but it is me saying out loud, I've definitely been through this. I've definitely realised over the years, over the last 5, 10, 15 years, that some of my friendship groups didn't play the same role that they once played. I wasn't the same person. I wasn't getting the same level of fulfillment from them, and I wasn't bringing the same to them. But what can happen is the opposite. What can happen is we hold on. So we stay in these default friendship groups and we start adapting. Maybe we shrink a little bit. Maybe we play the role we've always played when actually that's not who we are anymore. But because we've known them for years and they've known us, that's what we do. Because we feel like we should stay close. But I guess I want to say right now, this is going to sound very profound, just because a friendship has history doesn't mean it has to have a future. And that might sound harsh. Now, one of my friends that I saw when I was back in the UK, I have been friends with her for a really long time, and she said to me, and she wasn't wrong, by the way, with this statement, she said, let's be honest, you and I don't have huge amounts in common anymore. And if we met now, we probably wouldn't be friends. She's right. But that doesn't mean our friendship isn't of value to me, and it doesn't mean our friendship isn't of value to her. We've made a decision that actually we love what we have. We respect it for what it was and what it is now, and it has adapted and changed. And we have different expectations of each other. And actually, we know that the gap was there for a while, but what we have done is together reduce the gap. But sometimes we don't do that. Sometimes what we do is we hold on because it's been a really long time. Because, I don't know, we were bridesmaids at their wedding, or we were at school together, or we worked together once upon a time, a really long time ago, and we went through this really difficult situation together. But deep down, sometimes we just know it doesn't feel the same. And that's really tough to acknowledge. That's the friendship gap. Realising that the gap between you, because there is a gap, right? Because you're friends, you're not sisters, you're not even best friends. There's, we have differences, but realising that gap has got bigger. And we had a conversation in the She Is Courageous Collective. And we had a conversation in the She Is Courageous Collective about this very subject, probably a few months ago now, where someone said, I feel like a square peg in a round hole. And what she was really describing was, I've grown, I've changed. And they haven't, or they haven't in the same direction, in the same way. And so I don't feel like I fit anymore. That's okay. It doesn't mean you have to start discarding everybody. But it also doesn't mean that you have to give this relationship effort because of how long it's been around. You only do what you want to do. It's really important to reflect on your personal growth, to reflect on who you are now and who you want to be, and whether that still aligns with perhaps some of your friendship groups, perhaps even some of your friendships. There's a wonderful saying, people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And it's okay to acknowledge that some friends are only meant to be in your life for a season, or some friends came into your life for a reason, not a lifetime. It doesn't have to make it sad, it makes it really natural. It's called evolution. People grow in different directions, and sometimes that distance isn't a betrayal, it's simply the growth. Now, it's really important not to confuse this with loneliness, because I think what happens, and I think I went through this, so when I left the UK and my friends obviously carried on with their lives as they would in a different country, what I felt was lonely, because they were moving on without me and I wasn't moving on, and that's on me. We all need connection, but we don't necessarily need deep connection. And we don't necessarily need that from where we've always had it. It's okay to want more than surface level catch-ups and, WhatsApps and memes or GIFs or whatever we call them. But the reality is deep friendship as an adult takes a different level of effort than it probably ever did when you were younger. And that is why so many people have long-term friendships, because actually they were built on something very different, and they became deep over time. Deep friendship as an adult requires, honestly, vulnerability. It requires intention. It requires effort and emotional energy that I'm not sure we've always got these days. So I want you to really think this week about whether you might be holding on to any friendships out of guilt, out of habit, and whether you need to perhaps consider whether that's working for you. I also want you to think about whether you're missing someone you haven't reached out to. And I also want you to think about whether there's space for something new. Because the beauty of moving to this new country is exactly that. I made space for something new, and I found new. I found new friends, and we're building different, deeper relationships. So, as always, I want to give you a few practical tips, and this could go in all kinds of directions, but I guess I just wanted to really bring it out into the open. The friendship gap. It's a real thing. We grow, we change, we evolve. And I think we have some societal conditioning about holding on to people that have been in our worlds for a really long time. If you think about kind of the attitude towards relationships, marital relationships, personal relationships with, our partners, there's a lot of stigma around leaving people if something's not working for you. You get told all the time, have you really worked at it? Shouldn't you? Well, I don't think that's any different in friendships. In fact, I know for sure I've had people say, well, shouldn't you at least try a bit harder? Shouldn't you give them another chance? That's not like they've done anything wrong. And maybe you should. You get to choose. But if you are feeling the friendship gap, if there has been a shift or a change in your life and you've noticed that perhaps you don't fit the same way you did, or you're not getting what you used to get, or don't feel the inclination to give what you used to give, there might be some work to do. And I just want to share a few tips. So first of all, if you have noticed a significant shift, if you have moved away from some friendship circles, let yourself grieve that shift. And that feels quite a deep word to use, okay? And I'm very conscious of using the word grieve. This is absolutely a grieving process. When we lose closeness with someone, when we lose someone or we step away from someone that's had a really big part in our life, it doesn't have to have had something dramatic happen. Sometimes people just naturally fall away. It's still a loss. And it's okay to acknowledge it. It's okay to let yourself feel that. You can grieve the shift. Notice where you might be over-adapting. If you're the one always chasing, always organising, or filtering who you are to stay connected, it might be time to ask, what am I protecting here? What am I afraid might happen? Check in with yourself, because you're not being true to you. Now, this does not mean, I just want to, again, caveat, that doesn't mean throw the baby out with the bathwater, tell these people you don't want to be their friend anymore. It might be a conversation. It might be about being honest and saying, I feel like I do all the work here. Because if you take on the role, sometimes people let you take on the role. It's like boundaries. Okay? If you're always the organiser, I know most of my friends let me be the organiser because I'm great at being the organiser. But actually, what if I don't want to be the organiser anymore? Well, that's on me to say. If I'm filtering myself, or if you are filtering yourself to stay connected, there may be some questions to ask. What are you protecting? Why are you holding on? Now, if you want to maintain that friendship, it could be about having a different conversation that says, you know what, I've shifted, I've changed. I'd really love to talk about the dynamics of our relationship. I'm being a bit formal there, but you get my point. It might be time for a conversation, because you don't have to lose someone. You could evolve together. It's what we do in relationships, right? So let yourself grieve the shift if it is happening, but notice where you might be over adapting and you might want to make some changes. You have to take responsibility for you first. This isn't about telling others, hey, you're not doing what I need you to do. You're not allowing for the new person that I am. It's about you kind of recognizing, actually, I'm doing lots of over adapting. Am I okay with that? If not, what's my responsibility? What am I protecting? What am I fearing saying? What do I need to do? Make space for new connections. You don't need, right, so this is a really important one for me. I'm not replacing my friends. I'm not trying to find an entirely new tribe. I don't have time for a new tribe, to be honest. But I do need to make space for new connection because it's important to me. Because actually every one of us needs one or two people who see you for who you are. So say yes to the coffee. Be a little bit braver. I know it's scary as an adult. Let someone in. Because we need connection. And if things have shifted and adapted quite significantly for you, you might need to look at, who do I have that I truly connect with? And it might be time to make space for the new connection. But alongside that, I'm just going to remind you to nourish what's already real. You know, if there's someone you're missing and you haven't reached out to, reach out to them. If someone lights you up, if you enjoy being in someone's presence, tell them. Go deeper. Make the first move. Be intentional about growing the friendships that feel really aligned to you. So I have a gentle challenge to you this week. I'd just love you to, just maybe have a bit of reflection. Are you experiencing a little bit of the friendship gap? I think it's really normal as we move into kind of that next phase of adult life. I'm heading for 50. Some of my friends have been in my world for 20, 30 years. Some have been in for a year or two. And somewhere in between, I've had friends that sadly, we have lost touch. And you know what? There's probably some in there that I'd like to reach out to. But there's others where I just recognize and acknowledge our lives went in different directions. And that's okay. Because I have wonderful, fond memories of our friendship when it was alive and well. So here's a challenge for you this week. Reach out to one person this week who you've thought about fondly, and you've realised you've not made as much effort as before. Say thank you to one friend who makes you feel seen. And if you are clinging to a friendship that no longer feels good to you, let it loosen a little bit. You're allowed to do that, and maybe then consider, what do you want or need from this? And what's your responsibility? I would love to hear from you if this has resonated, if you are going through a friendship gap, a friendship shift right now, or if there is someone you're thinking of that maybe has had a transition in life, a country move, has grown and changed, and they've been talking to you about some other friendship circles. Why not share this episode with them and see if it helps them really think about their next step? As ever, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time on the She is Courageous podcast.